So, hello everybody. I am Greg Livingston, aka Golem, here with my buddy Ghouls. Please say hello.
Or Ghouls Are Free is my like handle online.
Your proper name. And we are here with
Full name.
Chunderfins. Chunderfins, the developer of Hazelnut Hex. Please say hello.
Hello, I'm at Chunderfins. That is my full legal name.
And do you go
Very nice.
by Chunder or
You can
anything?
just call me. You can call me James or Chunder. Those are fine. Either one.
Yeah, okay. Just not late for dinner. Um, so we were chatting. We were chatting a little bit before recording, and Ghouls mentioned that he doesn't often give new games a shot, and so it's nice to be pushed into something. And Ghouls introduced me to Hazelnut Hex as, hey, there was this rando shooter I found out about. It's kind of a Danmaku, but it's really easy. And so I specifically remember telling him, like, well, it better be easy because otherwise I'm not going to play a Danmaku. And that was really my interest in this interview, that, like, I don't understand Danmaku, and so to actually have a designer here to ask is useful, just to help me understand, like, what is this genre even about.
Oh,
Um,
I'm.
Well, so just the reason I recommended the game to Golem was not just that it's easy. I also thought that you would like the style of it because it does have a lot of style and it felt like the kind of thing that you'd get into. But I watch a lot of, like, I'm active in the shoot 'em up community, I guess you would say. I watch a lot of Twitch streams. I listen to what people are talking about. And Hazelnut Hex was the game of the week or month, or there were a lot of people playing it a couple months ago when it came out. And like I said, I don't always jump on every new game, but I was like, Greg plays Greg has expressed an interest in trying to get into this type of game, but has always had a hurdle with the difficulty. You know, trying to get into a cave game, for instance, has always been a bit of a sticking point. And I thought, like, this looks like something, and the feedback I'm hearing about it is that it's not only something that you can easily get into, but also something that pretty much universally is being enjoyed. Like, I
Oh,
really wasn't hearing, like, because some easy games come out and people are like, sucks, too easy, crap. But Hazelnut Hex, people were like, yeah, like, it didn't take me that long to clear it, but good game.
oh. Well, thank you very much. I'm also
So,
very glad to hear that you think it's easy because one of my fears was that I made it too hard. So that is good to hear.
well, actually, I wanted to ask, related to the difficulty, if you tried to make it at a level where kids could get into it. Because I saw you talk about that in another interview, and certainly the style of the game is something that is very appealing to kids. And in the shoot 'em up community, you know, it's mostly adults. But I was wondering if you had kids on the mind, trying to get them into the game or just the genre.
Oh, not at all, really. I was just trying to make something that I would like. I like cartoony shit, and it's I guess the only thing I know how to draw. So Um, easiness, though, I was trying to make it somewhat of an approachable shmup, but I wasn't quite sure how well I hit that mark, just based on some of the feedback I got from testers. It's such a wide variety of skill levels. Uh,
So, actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask was, like, how many testers were you putting this by? And, like, was it a range of people, or, like, did you specifically pick people that were new and not new, or,
I did
um,
I did try to pick a little bit of a range for the testers. Like I got some people who've like played a ton of shmups, some person who developed a shmup, some of my friends who don't play any shmups at all. So just to get I don't know, feedback from a variety of perspectives, I guess.
that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to, like, that spectrum of people that play a lot of shmups versus people that don't play any. Obviously, you're someone that has played the genre, but is it something that you like actively? Do you play shoot 'em ups like on a regular basis, or is it just an old favorite?
They're still my go-to. I still play a lot of shmups. Yeah, they're usually my go-to if I need to just like cool down a little bit before I go to bed. It's like, let's get a little relaxing shmup time in here.
Oh my god. What?
Relaxing. So that's that's
So that might be my most insane take, is that I think it can be a relaxing genre if you don't like, if you're not too concerned about like getting a 1cc every time. They're pretty low stakes. You can just, as long as you're having fun, you know.
I'm with
Okay.
you 100%. You only rage as much as you amp yourself up.
Exactly right. Yeah, like you can just enjoy the ride. Something kind of zen and relaxing about just being a little spaceship dodging some bullets, I think.
It's very simple. Like the genre is something that you don't have to remember a lot of controls. You don't have to learn a ton of new mechanics. And I think that that's part of what worked in Hazelnut Hex for me is that I immediately knew how to play the game as soon as I
Oh,
picked
I'm
it
so
up.
glad. Perfect.
So, actually, to throw it over to Golem,
Yeah, that it was pretty easy to pick up and play.
yeah. Well, you said
Um,
you had trouble understanding Danmaku from looking at them.
yeah, where it's that I'm pointing to like a very vague idea when I say that of like, um, you know, literally I can clear Hazelnut Hex, but it is such a volume of bullets that like I'm not entirely getting like what is the stage theme or idea, or like what's the cohesive element behind the bullets. And I'm not saying that about Hazelnut Hex in specific, but about Danmaku in general. That um, like with Mushihime-sama Novice, like I cleared that, but like I don't have a sense of what its meaning is. Um, so Hazelnut Hex I found very approachable. I think I'm kind of used to the pixel hitboxes and stuff by now, and definitely like the panic bomb, the gracious bomb recharge with the chips made it approachable. But I don't think I've reached that like level of comprehension.
Speaking of like comprehensibility and familiarity with the genre, like were there are some bullet patterns in the game that I like as an experienced player recognize. For instance, the stage 1 boss has the tea time pattern from the Cotton games. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Oh,
but
yes, absolutely.
okay, because I found that there were a decent amount of similarities with Fantastic Night Dreams Cotton, which I had conveniently played recently. Um, and the witch theme kind of gets you thinking along those lines to start with. So, were you trying to throw in like a bunch of different references along the way?
A lot of it I think was probably subconsciously ripping stuff off. I wasn't thinking of tea time when I made that, but I know exactly what you mean, and I'm like, now I'm thinking, oh yeah, that is just tea time, huh?
Well, I think that that's part of the very nature of the genre. Is I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of in subconsciously ripping things off because it makes it feel that much more like a shoot 'em up to me. That like there's tea time in there. There's a pattern that's like a Ketsui boss. There's a couple others, uh, but it's like it's that familiarity at the same time as the new context makes it exciting.
There's definitely a few times during the development where I was like thinking I came up with a great idea, I'm a genius, no one else has thought of this, and then I'd learn like, oh no, this was in an NES game 30 years ago. Someone beat me to the punch a long time ago.
There's only 500 other shmups that you're competing with for original ideas, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, were there any games in particular that you looked at for inspiration, or you feel like really live in your subconscious?
Probably a ton, yeah. I think that, yeah, the ones I usually mention are Darius Gaiden. That's like my all-time fave from when I was in high school. Played a shit ton of that. Gunbird 2 and Castle Shikigami 2 were the ones I played an absolute ton of with friends growing
Castle
up.
Shikigami 2. Okay, because I saw you reference in another interview about Castle Shikigami, and I wondered if you'd played all of them or if there was
I've
one in particular.
I've only played 2 and 3. I think 2 is the cream of the crop because of the localization. That's when you can get anybody to play with you and they'll have a great time. Like, people are
And
sold the second they hear the voice acting. Like, okay,
oh,
this is hilarious.
the camp factor is fantastic in
There's
those games.
nothing else like it. You couldn't
Yeah,
recreate it if you tried, you know?
exactly. And that was actually something I thought of. I thought of Castle Shikigami and also Gunbird and some of the other Psycho games in the dialogue exchanges that you included in the game.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted, like, that amount of dialogue between the levels, I guess.
Yeah, and it's great because that adds character and memorability to the game, I think.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully you'll notice that Golem's icon here is the Silverhawk.
The old Silverhawk, my freaking favorite. I love that ship.
That's
That and
just
the
good
Vic
taste.
Viper. What cool, iconic ship designs, you know?
Exactly. And uh, so for the witch theme, again, that reminds me a little bit of Gunbird and like with Marion and Cotton. And there's kind of like a whole tradition of witch shoot 'em ups, which I feel like Hazelnut Hex fits into quite well.
I was thinking about that a little bit. I was like, is this too much of a ripoff of like other witch shoot 'em ups? But I was like, no, there's like a billion spaceship shoot 'em ups. Why not add a few more witch ones into the mix, you know?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
And it's a witch with a laser beam too, so you get a bit of both worlds.
exactly right. Yeah.
There was one other game I haven't played, but I heard someone else mention this the other day that they said they felt the game was similar to Trouble Witches. Do you know that one?
Oh gosh, I don't think I've actually played Trouble Witches. Which one was that? That's not a Genesis game, is it?
No,
No.
it's a fair. I think it might be on PC and 360 or
Okay, no, I
something.
definitely haven't played that one then.
Okay, I just wanted to throw it out there because I heard people mention it.
I'll have to check it out though. I know someone pointed out to like some Dojin shmup I'd never heard of and been like, oh, it's exactly like this. This game must have been a huge influence. And I'm like, I've never heard of this, but I guess I gotta play it now.
A Dojin spot you've never heard of. Talk about redundant.
Yeah, I guess so. Should we just say a Dojin shmup?
Um, no, but I'm glad to hear you're familiar at least with the type of. I mean, even saying the word Dojin shmup shows that you know about the games for sure.
Oh, there's such a wide world out there that I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of.
It is. Yeah, I wanted to ask if there were any newer shoot 'em ups because there were other games that came out. I think two that came out around the same time as Hazelnut Hex were Gunvein and Dead End City. And I wanted to know if you'd played any of like your competitors, so to speak.
Oh man, I'm gonna give away how behind on my two playlist I am. Like when you said new shmups, I was like, oh yeah, Blue Revolver, but no, that was like 5 years ago, wasn't it? That was a long time ago, actually. No, I've seen stuff about Gunvein. I need to play that one. The other one you mentioned I hadn't heard of, but I looked it up and it looked quite cool. What was that one again?
Dead End City.
Dead End City. Yeah, that one looked rad. Cool looking graphics. I gotta snag that one at some point.
Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, I'm just a random guy, but I would recommend it for sure. It's a really fun game. But actually, speaking of those, another question I wanted to ask was obviously there's a lot of vertical games and shoot 'em ups or vertical scrollers that have the 7:8 or 3:4 aspect ratio. And Hazelnut Hex, of course, is widescreen 16:9. Did you ever consider making a vertical game? Or like, were you committed to the idea of a horizontal?
So a lot of my favorites are horizontal, and I think it's just I think probably the gameplay is legitimately better in a lot of vertical ones, just for like tracking bullets and stuff. But I kind of like the horizontal ones. You can get like a nice horizon. I feel like the backgrounds are more interesting. A lot of the vertical ones are like, oh, you're staring down at the ground.
Yeah, that's a great point because I was thinking about it from your history as an animator, right? That it makes sense. Horizontals just do a much better job of presenting characters in particular. Um, like spaceships and tanks, they look okay from a vertical or an eagle eye perspective, but it's just more suiting to the artwork, I thought, to have a horizontal.
Yeah, I think more horizontal shmups have like grabbed me with their atmosphere than vertical ones. There's a lot of like notable exceptions to that, but I think on the whole, the horizontal ones just, I don't know, take me in a little bit easier than the vertical ones. I think the for me, like the ultimate vertical like aesthetic one is Ray Force. That's like the coolest looking vertical one to me. So many like layers and depth to it. That's a cool looking game.
You picked a good name. We could get into some of the more technical questions, Greg, if you wanted to jump into those.
Yeah. So, I was mentioning earlier that I kind of struggle with more nuanced layers of meaning in Danmaku style games. So, thinking about it, you have the enemy design, how each individual piece is designed. Then you have the stage design, which is like how the formations come at you. And you have the player design, which is the player's own abilities for playing through the level. So first off, I wanted to ask, it seems like a lot of the bullets are the same speed, and is that true or just my perception?
Yeah, no, most of them, I think there's like, for aim shots especially, I think there's like 3 possible speeds that I baked into the game, and depending on if you're on normal mode or moderate mode, I think you won't even see some of the speeds in each version. Yeah, I don't know if there was any real deeper meaning or thought into that, other than I was just like, that seems like about the right speed. I'll go with that.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so it wasn't like a conscious decision of like, if I have too many speeds, that's just going to ruin the game. It's more just like, it felt right to have kind of 3 set speeds.
Yeah, not to give away like how, I guess, unplanned a lot of this stuff was, but that's pretty much how it went. Just like, oh, yeah, I think that seems about right. And then when I needed a slower one, I was like, okay, I guess I'll add another one.
When it came to adjusting speeds for the difficulty modes, is that something that you did individually, like per enemy? You were like, okay, this enemy probably needs a faster speed to make it harder, or did you just step everything up +1?
It's all done per enemy, and I don't know if that's the smart way to do it, but that's how I did it.
My vote would be that's the smart way. I think that there are a lot of games that programmatically increase difficulty that become kind of jokey.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the reassurance.
Well, see, that makes me feel a little awkward because I'm the Gradius fan here, where obviously you pick up an option and suddenly duckers are shooting at double speed.
Oh, I love Gradius.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a point of reflection on dad shmups versus Danmaku. I've never really considered like how variable bullets
dad shmups? Are they called dad shmups?
Yeah, if you're not familiar, the new... I learned this... I'm 34. I've been playing shoot-'em-ups my entire life, and I learned in the past couple years that all the shoot-'em-ups that I consider real shoot-'em-ups are now called dad shmups.
That's so funny. I think I like that. I don't think I'm offended by it. I think I like it.
But essentially it means non-Danmaku.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a fan of a lot of dad shmups. I love Gradius. I love Adarius.
Okay. Where I did see a lot of variety was with the spread of bullets. But it seemed like for shot patterns, there were three major types. You would either have a single aimed bullet, an unaimed spread, or an aimed spread. And are there any bullet patterns you would say don't fit into one of those categories?
I'd say there's maybe another category could just be like maybe like wall bullets or like barfy bullets, things that aren't things just meant to like restrict your movement. Like in a couple bosses, there's just a big.
That's right. There does tend to be a theme in the bosses of those walls with small gaps in them, sometimes horizontal, sometimes vertical, or like the barriers that the stage 4 boss creates.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Maybe like a barrier bullet. And definitely some of them are just there to give you a better bonus if you use the bomb. Like in the final boss, there's a bunch that don't really restrict your movement that much, but I want there to be a big number when you hit that bomb button.
Oh my god, that's so satisfying.
Yeah. That's I've been working on scoring the game a little bit, and that seems to be knowing when those big patterns are coming seems to be a big chunk of your score.
Yeah, I think there's a few spots that are definitely like not super well balanced in terms of when you should use that bomb. I think stage 2 boss is one of the biggest bonuses in the whole game for some reason.
That's the one we're all saving up our bombs for, yeah. So, actually, I could also point out there are arcing bullets. For instance, the snowman in stage 3 has those Cheerios that sort of arc.
Yeah.
Thanks for using a cereal as a reference.
I thought that was intentional, was it?
No, I didn't think that was Cheerios until you said it right there, but that's what they are now, yeah.
I've been seeing all the bullets in the game in cereal. Rice Puffs, Cheerios, marshmallows.
Oh my god, you should have made this game, yeah.
filling in the. We'll edit that out, and we'll make it sound like you said that.
Yeah, I thought about that from the beginning. I'm very smart.
So, along the lines of bullet variety, there's those varieties plus the other couple others we mentioned. Going from enemy to enemy or stage to stage, did you have any method for varying? Like, from stage 1 to stage 2, are you taking the most prominent enemy and just adding another angle into the spread? Or how would you say you approached that?
This is another thing where I don't think there was too much planning going on. I tried to make it so there's about the same number of like small enemies and medium enemies and big enemies each level, and then it was more of like thinking, well, how would this enemy attack? How would like an ice cream cone attack or whatever?
So you were thinking of it in terms of the characters, like how...
Yeah, and I just don't know that I'd recommend it, but I will say that's how it happened. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess.
So a snowman blows Cheerios from his pipe, basically?
Exactly right, yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
There are also... and this relates to enemies as well as bullets, but there are also places where you put random distributions basically in there. Was that something that you had to tune a lot, or again, did you just kind of go with, it feels like this part should maybe have some randomization in it?
It's something I should have tuned a lot. It's not something I did tune a lot. Yeah, it was just like that's good old-fashioned lazy programming, I think. In retrospect, I think it would have been much better to like carefully place those enemies, because I noted that some people were commenting that the scoring is a little bit unpredictable with those enemies. So I might try to change that in a balance patch at some point.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd very much like to put out a balance patch. Not to change topic here, but there's a number of things I'd like to change, but I don't know how far I can go without upsetting people who got used to the old version, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of those things where like, do I have to clear the leaderboards now?
Hazelnut
Exactly. I'm
Hex
like, do enough
Black
people
Label.
care? Can I just go? That's the other thing I was thinking. Do I give it a funny name?
Give it. I don't want to tell you what to do, but purple label I think would be.
Be funny. Yeah.
People do call it purple game.
There's no funny name I could give it that could possibly be funnier than Destiny, though. Cave Lost is the funniest possible name with Destiny.
You're not going to beat Destiny, sorry. But in terms of the randomization, yeah, I've seen the same comments about that affecting scoring, but I honestly think that, again, just an opinion, that some randomization does add some spice to the game so that it's not. I mean, again, like playing it repeatedly, for me, it's just a little bit more exciting to have some random stuff
Hey,
sometimes.
I love hearing that. Thank you, because I feel like as a developer, I was putting in a lot of random stuff to keep it exciting for me, who was playing it all the time. I was like, "Ooh, this is exciting, this is thrilling," and then when I would send it to a tester, they would be like, "I can't figure out what the hell's going on, how to get past this pattern. Please make it less barfy."
So wait,
So that is actually something you adjusted?
Yeah, so if you played the original version the very first tester got, you would have been in hell. It was unplayable to anyone except for me in its first iteration, I think.
that makes me curious that I would have said the game is fairly, like, not static, because there's a lot of aimed stuff, but I guess I would have said the game is fairly deterministic. I'm not sure. Like, I can think of a few random patterns, like when you have the watch out signs come up, or when the stage 1 boss does its initial volley. But is it more random on moderate, or am I just, like, taking for granted a bunch of random stuff that I didn't notice?
I think it's the same amount of random, but a lot more of it. So it's just as random, but there'll be twice as many random bullets coming up during the same random patterns in normal, I guess.
Something you might not have noticed, Golem. I don't know how much you played for score, but because of the combo system that the chart shot works on, um, clouds of enemies or groups of enemies, especially lines of enemies, but also those random clouds are something that you basically need to score, or you need to combo to score better. And you do, because I didn't notice it at first either. And then when I went back and was like, I want to get 3 million here, it was like, all right, well, who knows how many of these fish are going to give me? Hopefully I got a times 10 on these.
Yeah, okay.
Stuff like that is where that's where the randomness really messes up a score run, I think.
And along those lines, as a more general question, how much math is going on behind the scenes for the bullets? Or can you give me a general sense of how quote-unquote mathy you would say your bullet behaviors are?
The bullets are very, very stupid. I'll say. I think the way I programmed them is stupid. I'm already working on a second shmup in there, not working the way they are in that game. The way they work in that game is they have a possible movement resolution of half a pixel, so they can either move 1 pixel or half a pixel each frame. No finer tuning than that. And for aimed, I think there's only 32 possible directions they can aim.
So 32 in Hazelnut or 32 in the new game you're working on?
Sorry. No, all that was for Hazelnut.
Okay.
In Hazelnut Hex, they're very dumb bullets.
Because there's one place where I noticed the 32, and that was on, I think it's the stage 2 or 4 boss. One of them shoots aimed streams of Cheerios at you, and it's like, I don't know exactly where this is going to go because it's a corrective angle, or it's an estimated angle.
Yeah. There's definitely a few spots where it's obvious that, oh yeah, these can't aim that precisely.
Also, like in terms of the precision of the bullets, what did you do for the hitboxes of the bullets themselves?
I tried to make them pretty small, but it's not like that consistent because I did each bullet just by hand. I was like, oh, that looks about right.
Oh, okay. So each bullet type, you did its own hitbox for it.
Yeah, one pixel seemed too small for like
Mm,
a game of this resolution. So they're
yeah.
like a tiny little box, but bigger than 1 pixel.
I kind of assumed that they were just the the glowing core of the bullet, like the white part.
It's a little bit smaller than that for most of them, I think. It started out that way. You're thinking along the right track, but I tried to make it a little smaller at some point just to give the player a little advantage.
That makes sense. The bullets themselves are very large on screen and easy to see. So
Whew, boy, thanks for saying so. I was very worried about bullet visibility.
I think it's quite good if I'm permitted one small criticism.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
I think there are some places where you could use two bullet colors.
Oh boy, yeah. No, I was thinking about that too.
Okay, because you don't want to go full rainbow. You don't want to go right N5, but um, there were a couple places where I had to play it through a few times to really, and this goes to what Golem was saying about feeling like Danmaku can be just a total, um, it feels like a stream of junk is coming at you. There were a couple times where like I had to play it through a few times to be like, okay, this is like 3 patterns, not 2 patterns on top of each other.
That's just careless programming, I'll say.
it
There's a few spots where it's like, well, I just didn't think that through that well, but I put it out anyway.
Look, if Cave can get away with one bullet color, why can't you?
When did Cave get away with one bullet color? Don't they usually do blue and pink?
No. Mushi is just pink only.
Oh, Mushi, yeah, okay.
Moving on to stage design, you mentioned that you mainly wanted to have the same number of small and moderate-sized enemies, but thinking more about enemy formations and how like multiple enemies grouped together, what would you say were the most important variations you wanted to hit when composing distinct formations?
This is another one where I was basically just thinking like, oh, have I done a pattern that looks like this yet? No, I guess I'll do that. And eventually thinking, have I done a pattern that looks like this yet? Yeah? Oh, okay, whatever, I'll do it again.
Well, so then in that case, did you ever create a pattern and say like, oh, this would go better in stage 2 than in stage 4 or something like that?
I think I probably did. Oh, that's a good question. I can't think of any specific examples, but I want to say if I did have that thought, I probably wouldn't have followed through with it. I probably would have been like, that would have been better in stage 1. Oh well, I did stage 1 already. We're done with that.
Was the design mainly like beginning to end, like the stage 5 final boss was the last thing you made?
I want to preface this by saying don't do things that way. But yeah, that's how I did it, pretty much. It's something about doing things in order feels good, but I don't think that's how you should do it. I always remember I think it was an interview about the original God of War where they said they designed the first level last, like after they knew how they were doing everything. So then that way they would make sure the first level was like the coolest experience where they really knew what they were doing. And I always think about that, and I just chose not to do it. I was like, let's start with the first level.
So, on that, was it like you did stage 1, you had like a bunch of ideas, and you were like, I'm going to put these in stage 1, these are good ideas. And then in stage 2, it was like, I need to come up with more ideas now.
That's a transcription of my internal monologue, yeah. That's exactly right.
Because that's funny, because I got the sense in playing the game that it does have a fairly it gets harder as it goes, but it has a fairly level sense of difficulty where
Ooh, good. That was somewhat intentional, I guess.
I like that. And stage 1 was not like, it's not free. Like when I was playing the game repeatedly, I was like, man, I'm resetting a lot here on stage 1. Stage 1 is killing me.
Yeah, I wanted stage 1 to still be kind of fun on replays, I guess.
Yeah,
But
that's
there's
great.
some games where it's like, you once you've played the game a few times, stage 1 is just like, okay, let's get through this before we can get to the fun stuff.
It's like, I'll give my dog the controller for stage 1 and then
Yeah.
take it back for stage 3.
Yeah, that was actually, now that you mention it, now you mention like the level difficulty and the stage 1 not being trivial, I was really happy when I saw there was a practice mode, and then I never really got that much use out of it. Like, I was doing full runs my entire time with the game.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm so glad.
Whereas usually I'm like
That's what I
grinding the hell out of the practice mode. Just give me the final boss over and over.
Oh, God. Yeah, I was hoping people would want to play the whole game over and over again. That warms my heart to hear.
So, sort of related to that point, was there a length that you had in mind from the beginning? Like, I want this game to be 25 minutes. I want each stage to be 5 minutes.
Yeah, basically what you just said, word for word, pretty much. Yeah.
It's
I was like,
good. Good choice.
Like, I want it to be about Metal Slug 1 was my ideal reference length, I guess.
Ah, okay. Metal Slug 1. Interesting.
So I think that covers stage design, which leaves the player design. And I think one of my favorite things about this game is that you have a charge shot, which lets you clear just about any bullet. There are exceptions, but a good majority of the bullets you can clear with that charge shot. And I already mentioned that the bullets are fairly slow in this game, obviously as a Danmaku. So it was an interesting point of tuning that the time it takes for a bullet to travel across the screen is shorter than the time it takes to charge up a charge shot. And I was wondering if you had a particular aim with how you tuned the timing on the charge shot.
Once again, it was just, that feels about right. Yeah, let's go with that. I will say it did lead to some sort of unintended cheesing possibilities in the game. Like, I thought I tested stuff fairly well, and then once I saw people playing the game, posting it on YouTube, I was like, oh, you can just beat that boss staying in one spot. The charge shot, huh? Oops.
I was kind of wondering if when you play the game, like how much do you rely on the charge shot?
Well, I know exactly where every pattern that was meant to be hit with the charge shot is, so I use it in those places, and then the places where I wasn't thinking of the charge shot when I made the game, I don't use the charge shot. But then again, these people who didn't make the game come with all these crazy ideas for how to play the game better than I do, and it just...
But that's very interesting that you had specific places where this is a charge shot. Like, you were in designing the stages thinking about the player's abilities and thinking, here's a layout that's going to encourage the player to use the charge shot.
Yeah, not thinking quite hard enough, but my heart was in the right spot, I think.
Then I think that leads us to the last question on my mind, which was, so this game has a scoring system ranging from killing stuff to chaining charge shots. And I was wondering if you had that all these scoring mechanisms in mind from the ground up, or did you complete the game and then say, this is what makes sense for scoring? Or what was your approach to scoring?
That system was actually there pretty early on. I got the idea. I was ripping off the charge system from Ys 8, not a shmup, but I loved the charge system in that game, and I was like, oh, I'll put it in a shmup. I'll be the first person to do a system like that, and that specifically was the thing where I realized an NES game had beat me to the punch by like 30 years. Yeah, yeah. East 8 was specifically the one I was trying to rip off for that. That was like the charge, and then get the extra stars for the super ability system in there.
That's a nice reference, though.
Yeah, I love those funny East games. And I guess the bomb system was a little bit ripped off from Bangai-O, the old Dreamcast. You guys played that one? Funny treasure game.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that. I mean, I guess Bangai-O is shoot 'em up adjacent, but it's interesting to hear that you were taking inspiration from games that were not shoot 'em ups, and even Metal Slug is again kind of shoot 'em up adjacent, but not exactly in the
Yeah,
genre.
a lot of shoot 'em up adjacent games I'm a fan of too.
By the way, what was the NES game that you inadvertently stole from?
Oh gosh, I think it was like a Hudson like caravan style one that has like the exact same charge shot thing. And I had never played it until I was just messing around with some ROMs one time. I was like, oh my god. I
Oh
didn't
man,
come up with this.
I'm gonna be seeking that one down.
Just to Steelman, I guess the charge shot system, it works well in a game, or like the idea of holding back your timing and then shooting to clear out a swath of bullets works well in a game that's busy with bullets. And I also really appreciated the chip system in that a lot of the enemy formations are about taxing the vertical reach of the player, where enemies will occupy, the bottom of the screen while you're at the top, or vice versa. And the fact that they leave chips in place incentivizes the player to traverse the full span of the screen even more.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, no, that was intentional. I wanted to make the player move around a little bit, not to like criticize much better games than mine, but whenever there's a shmup and like all the pieces just come straight to you, I'm like, well, what was the point?
Yeah.
I didn't have to collect that. It just came to me automatically.
It definitely adds some spice when you're trying to score, especially because hazelnuts are so important for your score. It's like, oh, I gotta get across the screen. Oh, it's gonna make a mess of all the patterns. I gotta do it though.
Hey, thanks for calling them hazelnuts. I've heard those things called all kinds of things.
It bothers me when people call everything metals and hypers. It's like it has a name. It's a thing in the game. Just call it it's a hazelnut.
Yeah, no, my old roommate called it. He was like, "Oh yeah, get the acorns," and I was like, "It's not an acorn. It's close to an acorn, but it's not an acorn."
I can see that. Actually, about the player abilities, another question I had was with regard to the 3 shot types. I think I might know what you're going to say here, but did you think about balancing the 3 shot types in any specific ways?
So you were correct to say those were one of the last things I put in the game. Originally, it was only shot type A. You were stuck with shot type A, and then towards the end, I was like, maybe I could put in a few other bullet types. Might make things a little more interesting. I didn't even realize until after like I'd seen other people playing a game like C type. You have to choose C type. C type is the only reasonable choice to make.
Oops.
So I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. C type's good.
That's something I'd like to address in a balance patch. Definitely, I'd like to make it so like, I don't know, you move a little faster if you choose the focused shot, and I don't know, the power is at least a little more reasonable to choose the other shots. But yeah, as is, it's maybe a little too obvious that those are kind of an afterthought.
No, I'm all about
does
B.
Kind of feel like, yeah, you're wrong though.
That's the cool choice. Playing type B means you're cool and like having a fun, exciting time playing the game.
Thank you.
C shot is just like, that's if you want to win. If you want to win a game.
So Ghouls.
You could add a random shot type. where the player's bullets are just going totally random directions.
I thought about something like that. I was like, what if I made just a really bad one? What if I just made one of the shots really, really shitty?
That'd be good for like an unlockable, or like if you press all 3 buttons when you select the shot type, you get garbage shot.
I was thinking about like putting it in there as a secret. We'll see. Maybe I'll sneak it in there for this balance patch I keep tossing around.
That'd be really cool.
So, Ghouls, did you have any other questions on your mind?
Well, this is off of Hazelnut Hex, but you mentioned working on another shoot 'em up, and I don't want to pressure you into talking about anything that's in development or you don't want to comment on. But I'd read a previous interview where you mentioned that your next game might be a visual novel, and you said that you find there to be a lot in common between visual novels and shoot 'em ups. And weirdly, about 15 years ago or so, when I was in college and like getting into a bunch of random types of games, I really liked text adventures, which are basically the precursor to visual novels, and I really liked shoot 'em ups. And I always felt like there was a line to be drawn between the two, and I could never place it, but I have a theory now, and before I say it, I want to know what you think about the connection between those two types of games.
I think they're games that get straight into the action. There's no bullshit. It's like you're there for either dodging bullets and shooting things, or you're there to, read about characters and learn a story. And there's no filler. It's just straight to what you came for, and no time wasting in between.
That is exactly the line of thinking I had. That because I am playing a text adventure for the first time in many years right now, and it occurred to me while I was doing that, and after I had read that interview with you, that these are two types of games you can't take your eyes off the screen. If you take your eyes off the screen, you're not making, like, it stops. And so, like, you have to keep reading, basically. Like, it keeps your full attention. You're fully engaged.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get it. There's dozens of us. It's not just me.
Exactly, there's dozens of us. But are you still thinking about making the visual novel, or are you?
I do have a little one in the works with a couple friends. That's like one I'm doing with a couple pals, and I'm doing just the shmup on my own time.
Well, that sounds cool. I'm definitely looking forward to both.
Yeah, who knows when they'll come out, but good to have something to toil away on, I guess.
Don't worry, only 2 or 3 other shoot 'em ups will come out, even if it takes you 5 years.
Oh man.
All right, then I guess that brings us to my last question. When it comes to game design, what would you consider the most important? The game itself, your vision, or the player's interpretation?
Oh man, that is an interesting question. I'd say like before it comes out, probably my vision was the most important because that's what got the game done. But after it comes out, I'd say probably the game itself and I guess the players' experience with it because that's what pays my bills.
That's what lives on.
Yeah, I gotta have those players enjoying it too. Hopefully. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the vision's kind of important, but it definitely shifted so much during the production that I guess I didn't get too attached to anything.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. Thanks for listening to me ramble about my funny little witch game. Always enjoy talking about it, and talking to you too was a delight.
Yeah, thanks. It was great talking to you as well, and I'll make sure that this gets passed around in the community. I think people will be interested to hear it.
Oh, well, hopefully I didn't make too much of an ass of myself. Be sure to edit out all the stupid shit I said.